On today's episode of Locked On Stars, we do a full breakdown on the Dallas Stars 2024 first-round pick, Emil Hemming. What is the chatter? What does the tape say? And the expectations moving forward. That and more next.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, forward producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Happy Wednesday, Stars fans. It's about time we sat down and did a full draft prospect profile on the 29th overall pick from this most recent NHL draft, Emil Hemming. With all the chaos that ensues during free agency, the Chris Tanev move, Ryan Suter was bought out, the Radek Faksa trade, you name it, it happened. We have not given our due diligence to Hemming. So we will do that today. I want to share some of the words from General Manager Jim Nill, some of the words from Joe Mcdonnell, the Director of Amateur Scouting. I want to share what I saw on tape from Hemming and the expectations moving forward from the young Finn. The Dallas Stars love their Finns. I love Finnish players as well. So we're going to dive deep into Emil Hemming's game on today's episode. Shout out to all you everydayers here on Locked On Stars. Please hit that notification bell. Never miss an episode. I did want to share this comment from one of you wonderful listeners a few hours ago. It says, "I'm glad I found this daily podcast. I'm a die-hard Stars fan living in Seattle. My family has been a season ticket holder since 93. Heck yeah. And I lived in Dallas until 2001. What a magical team. And thanks for all the work you're doing for the fan base. Keep up the good work." First off, thank you for the kind words. And this is the podcast for you. It is exactly for you, you die-hard Stars fans out there. So please share this podcast. We're bringing you episodes every single day. There is no off-season on Locked On Stars. And this is why I love doing this podcast. I'm a die-hard Stars fan, number one. And I want to give an option to the other die-hard Stars fans out there to listen to Stars Talk every single day, 24/7. So that's what we're going to continue today. And there would not be this show without all of you. So really a huge thanks to all of you wonderful Stars fans. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So just a quick reminder on who Emil Hemming is. He is 18 years of age. He was born on June 27th, 2006. So he celebrated his birthday just a few weeks ago from Vasa, Finland. He is 6'1" and 205 pounds. On the Elite Prospects draft profile, he's listed at 6'2", 194 pounds. And for the majority of his draft year, he was 17 years of age. He also inked his first entry-level contract with the Dallas Stars just a couple of days ago. It was a 3-year entry-level contract totaling $2.925 million. I believe his cap hit is $925,000 or so. I could be a bit off on that, but I believe that is what his first 3-year entry-level contract is. He did play in Finland's top professional league. He posted 7 goals and 11 points in 40 regular season games. And Jim Nill mentioned that was one of the things that stood out to them about Hemming was he was playing with older players as a 17 and 18-year-old. He was playing against top professionals and not on the U20 team, which usually leads to good translation of his tools to the North American game. You also have to take some of his numbers with a grain of salt because the role he was used for the Finnish national team on the U18 World Championship squad was different than on TPS in Liga. He was mainly used as a fourth line checker on his TPS squad. So the offensive numbers may not match up with what the Dallas Stars are envisioning him to become, which some Scouts think he is a middle six winger with the potential to be power play 2, and some just see him as a bottom 6. We'll have to see how it all transpires over the next couple years, of course, but he skated with the TPS U20 club, and he was 5th on the team with goals with 11 and finished with 18 points. So the scoring is definitely there. The trait that really sticks out about Hemming right away is his shot, a very powerful shot on the power play, especially. He sits on that left dot. He opens up like Ovechkin, not as gifted as a shot as Ovechkin, who has a once-in-a-generational shot and player, frankly. But Hemming can still pound the pill, and he was very, very successful on that dot. A little bit like Tyler Seguin-esque, but obviously in a much bigger build. He's a really, really interesting prospect. And if you go for some of the traits, heavy shooter, puck handler, two-way forward, here is the elevator pitch from Elite Prospects Draft Guide. A borderline high-end shooter with a power forward flair, possesses handling skill and a projectable two-way game through a strong work ethic. They have shades of Nick Paul, actually, who was a Dallas Stars first-round pick from years ago. But here's the scouting report in case you missed it from a few weeks ago. Looking for a well-rounded power forward with translatable tools in the second half of the first round, Emil Hemming has got you covered. The 6'2" winger came out of the gate swinging, distinguishing himself as Finland's top player at the Helinka Gretzky Cup and starting the season with TPS U20 team with 4 multi-point games. It only took him a few weeks to earn the Liga call-up, after which he spent the majority of the season playing against men, albeit in a bottom 6 role. So really, he's a player that has tools which you hope project to the next level. And you can certainly see what the Dallas Stars really liked in Emil Hemming. And the amateur of director scouting, Joe Mcdonnell, said, I know everybody says this, but they had him a lot higher on their board than other teams did. I believe he was the 19th ranked European forward by NHL Central Scouting. So it was really good value at number 29. And the Stars had plenty of choices at their disposal, but they really, really stuck with Hemming, which came to no one's surprise since Jari Lehtinen, of course, is the general manager of the Finnish national team. And Jim Nill said they definitely use him for background checks, and of course, other information they need. But their scouts are really, really in on Hemming, and they decided to take him at the 29th pick of the 2024 NHL draft. So we'll see how it all plays out in the next couple of years. And the chatter that surrounds him is really interesting. And as the draft process went along, many scouts seemed to wane on the idea of Hemming truly being a middle 6, top 6 forward in the NHL. Some thought he kind of is what he is at this point, a bottom 6 forward. And some thought, yeah, he does have the potential to be a middle 6 guy on the power play too. Just want to share some game reports from certain scouts. And this came from a game against Sweden. This was in the U18's World Championships. And this was actually a do or die game for the host country, Finland. So you get a good idea of what type of player Hemming's going to be, and really a win or go home game. And this came from Lazi Alonen. After scoring 4 goals in the first 3 games, Hemming didn't find the back of the net in the last 2 outings. It's not like he didn't have his share of opportunities in this one. Having at least a handful of looks you could label as scoring chances, I think we have a pretty good read on Hemming's game at this point. He has an above-average shooting skill, moves fine enough for his size, maintains a good two-way work ethic and motor, and can connect plays in transition. That's pretty clear path to a bottom 6 role in the NHL, with the ultimate upside being that of a middle 6 winger with power play 2 potential. We have him right around the right spot, give or take a few spots. And those are kind of the expectations you get with a first round pick in picks 20 through 29. You get players like Radek Faksa, who the Stars took, I want to say it was 12th or 14th overall. I could be off by a couple of spots. And he turned out to be a role player in the NHL. He was a bottom six forward for his career, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Of course, you want to hit and these guys to become absolute splashes. And to be fair, the Stars have done a fantastic job of doing that with players like Johnston, players like Stankoven, not in just the back of the first round. We're talking second round picks, third and fourth round picks, getting great value in these spots. And I think Dallas has done a much better job recently, and probably why they've really hit on players is they just stick to their guns. They don't go outside the box. And many of us wanted them to take EJ Emery, who was still on the board at that point. But I will give them their credit for just sticking to the game plan and saying, look, this is the guy we liked, and we took him. He was available, and at 29th overall, we feel like it's a really, really good value, and he's a really good shooter, and he has good size. And a lot of times that can translate. There are some comparisons I want to put out there that don't necessarily make a ton of sense, but there's little scotias of a certain player in his game that will be familiar to Stars fans, and I will do that here just in a moment. But you look at some of his statistics in 23-24 for the TPS U20 team, he had 18 points in 13 games. For the Finnish national team at the World Juniors, he had 4 goals and 2 assists for a total of 6 points in 5 games. He really stood out a lot more against players his own age, which makes sense since he was playing against men for Liga, the top professional league in Sweden. So there are some characteristics that Jim Nill and company think will translate to the North American game. He obviously hasn't played a lot of games over here just quite yet. He was at development camp, which is always a good sign. So really intrigued to see what is the path for Emil Hemming. A lot of people believe he's going to need 2 to 3 years of development before he makes an impact. And we've seen it before. Some guys move quicker through the process than others. Some take a bit longer, but he is big. He's a right shot that has some pop in it and doesn't necessarily skate incredibly. I don't think he's given as much credit for his mobility as other prospects, but we've also learned that talent comes in all shapes and sizes. Robertson isn't the most gifted skater in the world, but boy, can he find the back of the net, and that's all that matters. I think that's kind of his path to the NHL, is a big, strong power forward type, and that's why I want to touch on some of the tape I watched. I watched a shift-by-shift performance from that Finnish-Sweden game in World Juniors, and I'm going to share some of my thoughts on his performance in that one in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. The summer is here, and we all love sports, and unfortunately, the playoffs have wound down, and we're all looking forward to October. But the sports are still sportsing, Stars fans. FanDuel lets you keep the sports going whenever you want. All you have to do is open up the app and dream up any bets you're in the mood for. So go to FanDuel. It takes 30 seconds. Download it on your smartphone. It's free on the App Store and the Google Play Store. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone all day, every single day. You can take a look at making some money this weekend with the British Open at Royal Troon. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. Plus, you have baseball slates every single day. I made some money not too long ago betting on both New York teams while I was in New York, Yankees and Mets. Thank you very much. So join in on the fun this summer with FanDuel. Head over to FanDuel.com. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So what did I think about Emil Hemming on some of the tape I watched from this young Finn? And he's a fun watch. I will say this. There's not a ton that jumps off the screen to you. There's not anything that really sticks out and makes you say, oh my gosh, besides his shot. He can really, really shoot the pill. And you notice that, and a lot of what you watch from him on tape. And the thing I especially like from him is he just doesn't dust it off very much. He's just direct and fires the puck on net. He had 4 or 5 shots in this game against Sweden. Didn't do a ton on the power play. The Finnish national team probably had 5 or 6 power plays in the game, and they just got nada on it all game long. They really, really struggled on special teams, but you can see the appeal from Hemming. There's stuff to like, and there's some stuff he's really going to have to improve on, which is understandable. First, the real positives. He's really good straight away. He's got good outside speed, and he's good at making plays in space. And I like that he's very liberal with his shooting. And you can watch some of his highlights as well on YouTube, and some of the goals he scores are gorgeous. I mean, wrist shots from the tops of the circles, just beating netminders. He's hammered one-timers on the power play, as I alluded to earlier, kind of sits on that dot, and he's really, really good in terms of his positioning. That's something that really stuck out to me. I thought his innate ability and just instincts of the game are really, really good. He was always in the right spot for the most part. He's strong on his stick and just has a good awareness for where he should be positionally, which leads him to getting some of those good chances. He had 4 or 5 scoring chances in that game alone, and he got stoned a couple of times. There was a couple of grade A looks, and the Swedish netminder just gobbled them up. But I think there's a lot to like in terms of just his innate instincts and his ability to play in transition. I think he skates pretty well for his size. I think that the area where he's really going to have to improve is, number one, is decision making. He wasn't, at least in this one, wasn't the most gifted passer. It feels like he falls in love with one play or a certain pass, and he kind of will not look for anything else, and it forces him into some bad plays. I think he needs to get a bit better on improv, so to speak, just making plays instinctually when things get taken away or things break down. Also, which is not a surprise, I think, for his size, is on the wall. He needs to get stronger in terms of his board battles, and I think it's where his feet and hands don't necessarily match up. I think he'll have to really develop his sense of using his body and his skill to his advantage on the wall and in tight areas. Is where I'm trying to get at, is that close and in tight areas, especially in the corners where a lot of the game is played. He's definitely going to have to develop as a bit stronger player on the wall at this point in time. But he is really, really young, and something to really, really keep your mind on as you look and watch tape from Hemming. He's really, really young, and for most of his draft year, he was 17 years of age. But what you did notice against the Sweden team is he did stick out size-wise, playing against players of his own age. You didn't see that against TPS, and there are some knocks on him as the process wore on. Some of the hype certainly started to wear on him, and it was a do or die game for Finland. They got knocked out after losing to Sweden this game 2-1, and there was some scouts that didn't love his performance in the game. But I saw a player that was around the puck a ton. I mean, you look at his 4 shifts. I want to say 4 or 5 shifts in that first period, and he had 2 to 3 scoring chances. The puck is always on his stick. He looked tired towards the end. He wasn't making great plays, and he wasn't as crisp. But I saw a player that had the puck on his stick constantly. He's just kind of in and around the puck all the time. Just has the puck on his stick. He's trying to make plays. But he was their second best option on the U18 team during that World Juniors Championship. And some didn't love him a lot in the game. This comes from JD Burke. There really isn't much left to say about Hemming at this point in the season. He is what he is, and that's a player with an impressive shot, a good power game, limited feel, and a motor that doesn't stop. Today, that was enough to make him one of Finland's most consistently threatening forwards. Hemming had no less than 3 grade A chances each of which the Swedish goaltender was equal to. I know that enthusiasm is waning in our group, but you can still sell me on Hemming at the end of the first. Great bet to play. Those upside may be limited. Here's a bit more of, I guess, a negative take on him. It says he already understands his strength and how to best use them in service to the team. That matters when projecting a bottom six with potential upward mobility. Hemming is further away, and because of it, a less certain as a prospect. But also some thought he didn't do a ton in a game that was pretty much do or die for Finland. But I really enjoyed watching him play. I think he's really aware positionally, which I guess shouldn't come to a ton of surprise as a Finn. They just usually churn out amazing two-way prospects. And he mentioned that he was really excited about the potential of coming to Dallas with all the Finnish players. So it should be a comfortable fit for him. And really intrigued to see how his game translate to North America. By the way, the entry-level contract does not stipulate he will be playing in the ECHL or AHL, right? He can still play overseas potentially, just like Liam Bixel did this past season. So we'll see where he ends up for next year, but someone to certainly keep an eye on. And who knows, maybe they find another value pick at number 29 in the 2024 NHL draft. So let's segue into a bit of the expectations for Hemming and what he could potentially be here in Dallas in the next few years. And we'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for a better candidate, a better life. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. As a business owner, you don't have a ton of time to constantly search for new candidates. That takes time and money. You want efficiency and you want answers. And Indeed helps you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. So join the more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you learned about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Hey, Stars fans, I want to thank you for being an everydayer here on Locked On Stars. And I also want to encourage you to check out all of the other shows in the DFW Metroplex. Locked On Cowboys, Locked On Rangers, who are right in the middle of their season. Looks like the Rangers may be turning things around. The All-Star game just happened, which was a fantastic event in the Metroplex. So be sure to show some love to Locked On Rangers and Locked On Cowboys, as well as Locked On Mavs. You all know Nick Engelstad, a fantastic host for Locked On Mavericks as well. So be sure to show some love, not only to Locked On Stars, but the other DFW teams in the Metroplex. All righty. What are some of the expectations for Emil Hemming? And I've sort of got into that a bit already, where he kind of fits the mold as that middle six winger with the potential to play on the power play. And I think that's really what Dallas fell in love with Hemming and kind of sees him as, where he translates into this power forward that has enough skill, but the size and physicality to go to the dirty areas, which he needs to get better at. And he will develop that over time. And this is where I get to this comparison, and don't take this, I guess don't take this to heart, so to speak. That's not the right phrase, but don't look at this as 100% who I'm saying he is going to become. But watching Hemming a bit, there's a skosh bit of Nichushkin in his game. And I know Nichushkin is bigger, but he had some of those characteristics of his mobility and protecting a puck, that long reach, and his ability to just kind of maneuver in tight and get his shot away, like not afraid to shoot the puck. As I've said, he knows that's his strength and he puts it on net. He doesn't dust it off, doesn't make the extra move, just fires it on net. And obviously, if he turned into any sort of player like Nichushkin on the ice, like that is a home run. And it obviously did not pan out for Nichushkin in Dallas, but it certainly did in Colorado. And that was what Dallas was hoping for. And I see a bit of that in his mobility. I'm really intrigued to see him in a more top six role, whether that's going to be in the Stars farm system or over in Finland or Sweden, wherever that may be, to get a real idea of what he become, because Dallas doesn't see him as a bottom six forward, at least in my opinion at this point. That can obviously change a year from now, 2 years down the line, but at 29, they're still hoping for a player that can make an impact, and it's not necessarily the generational player. It's hard to find outside of the top five, but I think you're looking at a player that probably needs 2 to 4 years. I think 3 years may be his sweet spot. And then you're going to see him having an impact with the Dallas Stars if all things go well. And I'm not just completely throwing out the option that he possibly in 2 years is ready to is NHL ready, right? I mean, that is certainly a possibility, and some prospects move a lot quicker through the system. But you can see what Dallas liked in him, and you can certainly see the skills. I think he's going to be the player that Robertson or Johnston is? I'm not ready to go there, but I think you're, and I don't want this to come off negative about him, but I think there's a higher ceiling than Riley Tufte, excuse me, from another first round pick to just kind of throw out there. And they're really different players. Like Tufte's huge and played a very, very different style of game. But I think when you think about the floor of Hemming, it's a higher than Tufte's was. I think the floor for Hemming is he fits in your top 9. He's maybe your third pair right winger. I really think that's a nice floor for him, with the potential to maybe squeak into a top 6 role if he really finds his game. And he's a great two-way forward that plays all 3 zones of the ice. I think there's potential certainly there in Hemming. So that's kind of my perspective on where I see the young Finn here, who was taken at number 29 by the Dallas Stars. Just inked that 3-year entry level contract, of course, taken in Vegas. He was at development camp just a few weeks ago as well. So a ton to like about Emil Hemming, certainly. And there you go. There's a full prospect profile on Emil Hemming. Felt it was necessary because we just kind of glossed over it a few weeks ago with the draft and free agency literally taking part within 48 hours of each other. So it felt like it was now the time to do that. Please check out yesterday's episodes. A wonderful guest, Sam Nessler, joined the show once again, and we talked all things free agency and what Dallas is going to do moving forward. Appreciate all you everydayers out there for tuning in every single day. Be on the lookout later on this week. We'll talk about the new Dallas Stars Hall of Fame inductees, Brendan Morrow and Jim Lights. Joe Pavelski officially has retired. We'll show him some love, even though we knew that was kind of the plan, but it is finally official. So we'll touch on that and some other news that popped up over this past weekend. Hit that notification bell, subscribe, comment, please. Be engaging with me. I love to hear your thoughts on the Dallas Stars and just thoughts on really anything. Love to read your comments and appreciate all the support per usual. Have a great Wednesday. It is gray outside in the Metroplex currently, at least where I'm living. So a little gray, but hopefully the sun peeks out tomorrow, or maybe not, depending on how you feel about the 98-degree weather, because you can boil sometimes. That is for sure. But welcome to July in Texas. Enough rambling. Have a great Wednesday, and we'll see you tomorrow. So long, Stars fans.